Hi, I'm Keith Cooper from Northlight Images in Leicester in England, and I'm going to have a quick run through Canon's new PRO-300 printer. This is Canon's new PRO-300 printer. It replaces the Pro-10, and although it has some internal similarities to the Pro-10, it's a changed design. It's certainly smaller and it's quite a bit lighter than the original Pro-10. It has, unlike the other one, it has a screen on the front, colour screen, not a touch screen, and controls for that, and power and ink change buttons. The prints come out the front, fold this tray out, and that collects your prints. There is also a feed slot for CDs, printable CDs and DVDs. I found it best to use the Canon software to print this. It handles the layout better, but literally you put a DVD here, feed it in, it prints. There's no overprint, no nothing. It prints very well. Put that back up. The inks themselves are not much different to the Pro-10. There are improvements, but you're not going to notice it, obviously. The cartridges load into the head assembly here when you're setting it up, and cartridges are about 15mm ink capacity, and they just fit in. And they're very similar to Pro-10 cartridges, but I would say they are different. So you can't use your old Pro-10 cartridges in a Pro-300. The inks are different, and there are a number of other slight differences as well. I'll put that down. You feed paper in. The main paper feed is here. I'll lift this up. Feed sheets in here. Now, there are two slots. There's one at the back I'll show in a moment for heavier art papers, but I found the paper feed reliable enough to use even moderately heavy art papers through this feed here. What I would suggest, if you're using heavier high quality papers, make sure they've got no curled up edges or corners, and feed them one at a time. Don't stack a whole lot of expensive paper here and hope that it's just going to sort it out. It might not. Well, it's your own fault, because they don't suggest stacking papers. Put that back there. Round the back is the paper feed for heavier papers. Now, this, you adjust the size, put a sheet in, it takes it, prints it through, comes out the front. There is no straight through paper print path, so you can't print board and the likes on it, but you can put pretty heavy papers in the back here. Although, as I said, from the examples I've got, show some prints in a bit, I never had any problem with the top feed for most of them. I didn't use this rear feed very often. In fact, the main changes that I noted in using the PRO-300 here compared to the Pro-10 a few years ago is in paper handling. Gone are the inconvenient margin sizes and page length limits. I'll show some pictures in a moment, but being able to print a borderless picture like that, this is A3 plus 13 inch by 19 inch. This is printed on a moderately heavy art paper. Absolutely no problem at all. There is no black ink switching or anything. That's all set by the media type you choose. The controls and screen here allow you to do quite a bit with the printer. The colour screen on the printer is quite useful. Gives you the usual ink levels, as you'd expect, but also allows you to set both the type and the size of paper you'll be using with the printer. If you make a point of always setting this before printing to the paper, it makes getting the wrong print settings much more difficult to do accidentally. There's also the usual maintenance, nozzle check and the like, as you'd expect on an inkjet printer. We have a template print, so I can print out music paper, note paper, various other bits and pieces if I want. And land settings. This allows me to set up how the printer communicates. I'm using it here with an Ethernet connection, although wireless works perfectly well, as does USB. As you see, you can step through the menu and use this controller here to do things. There's also a quick guide to how to load paper, how to replace the ink using from a smartphone. And there we go, a simple animation. I've quite a lengthy review of this printer written up on the Northlight Images website, but here are a few of the sample prints that I did whilst testing. A panoramic print, printed on a luster paper. This is printed off 10-inch roll paper. There's no roll holder at the back, so you need to trim it first and then feed the paper through after setting a custom print size. That's a view of the coast in Oregon at Canon Beach. The printer also supports panoramic size papers. This is a double A4 sheet. Some suppliers actually do these. The view in Amble in Northumberland in the UK. That's on a luster paper. This on a Baryta style paper. That's up in the Lake District. And a heavy art paper. No difference with the paper, prints just as well. I could have printed these borderless as well, but I only tend to print borderless to show that you can print borderless. Talking of which, one borderless print on a rather glossy paper. Works really well. Depending on the quality settings, it takes anywhere between 6 and 10 minutes to print one of these, although as ever, it depends on the image. There's a black and white print using the black and white print mode of the printer. These are the steps at Wells Cathedral on the way up to the chapter house. It's taken with a shift lens, taken handheld, but printed on a heavy art paper, borderless. That one was via the rear feed. Now, in terms of adjusting your black and white, I've written another article that specifically looks at black and white printing, but this is one of the test prints you can do using the Canon printer software. I don't know how well this will show up in the video, but it varies tone across, so it allows you to fine-tune the tone of your print. Good for black and white, good also for allowing for awkward lighting that introduces colour casts. A lighter art paper, this one I believe 265 grams, easily fed through the top feed, no problems at all. During the testing I had no feed problems, no misalignment, works very well. The inside of a disk drive. I do quite a bit of macro photography professionally for electronics companies and the likes, and so that's inside a broken disk drive, whilst that one shows some small chips on the nib of a pen. As you can see here, I've got a huge great pile of prints. I did loads of them during testing, so if you want more details, please do have a read of the review. It is quite long. I make no apologies for that. I've tried to be thorough, and if there is anything that you see on it and you've got any questions, please just ask. The closest I'll ever get to a Lamborghini, I suspect. testing the Canon TSE-17 tilt shift lens. These colour prints and the black and white ones are absolutely superb quality, have no difficulty putting them into a show or anything. There are no problems with it. However, as with all printers, if your photos aren't really up to scratch, the printer, the bigger the prints you make, the more readily it will show it. There's a couple more there. That's a credit card with a small chip on it. These are the raised letters, raised numbers on the credit card, and they give you an idea of the scale of it. But anyway, as you see, I've made an awful lot of prints. I've also done a lot of printer profiles. These are all explained in the review, and the profiles are available free for non-commercial use if anyone wants to experiment with them. So there you go. That's the basics of the PRO-300. Quite a nice update to the old Pro-10. Certainly fixes the biggest problems I had with the Pro-10 were its paper handling. That's fixed here. So